Hello brewers and beer lovers. Lately we have been on a little bit of a Belgian beer kick. Finishing off with this one right here, a Belgian Witbier, which is by far one of the most refreshing and delicious beer styles going around. So let's show you how we made it. To make this Belgian Witbier, we're going to need a lot of wheat. No kidding, it's in the name. But we're going to be running with 40% of our grain bill being rolled wheat. We're then going to have 10% of rolled oats, 5% of light Munich malt, and 45% of floor malted Bohemian Pilsner malt. This is really, really good quality Weyermann's malt. I'm really excited to use it and pull some excellent malty characteristics, a little bit of honey character into this beer. I think this is going to be really, really excellent just because of the quality of this grain. It's not often that I splurge on really high quality grains from international regions, but today's an exception. We're going to do this one properly. This is the only one that actually needs to get crushed along with the light Munich malt. All the other rolled stuff can be kept separate. And of course, we'll be using rice hulls to make sure that we actually get a sparge running through properly and we don't get any stuck mash problems. Now, let's crush some grain. Right, let's talk water chemistry before we mash in. We're going to keep the water profile pretty balanced on this one. We're not really going for a super hard profile and we're not really going for any ratios here. We're just going for balanced mouthfeel. So we're going to have 70 parts per million of calcium, 5 magnesium, 16 sodium, 80 chloride, 81 sulfate, and 57 parts per million of bicarbonate. If you don't know what any of this means, totally fine. Check out this video up there. It explains water chemistry 101 and how to use salts in brewing. I promise, if you haven't touched it before, it makes an enormous difference. Water chemistry is how you turn good beers into great beers. Now, let's go and mash in. We're going to be mashing in with 16 liters of strike water. Imperial units will show up all over the screen throughout this video if you are so inclined. And the whole idea behind this chosen grain bill is we want this beer to be extremely smashable. Wit beers are traditionally extremely refreshing, summer, spring, kind of all year round, anytime's a good time type beer. But the thing that they all have in common when it comes to wit beers is being very silky on the palate, very creamy, and that's helped in two parts. One, by the oats, helping to really silk things out and make it really voluptuous, and obviously hugely by the rolled wheat. Specifically, unmalted wheat is what is required in a wit beer. You can't get away with just using malted wheat. The unmalted stuff is going to contain a lot of different proteins and oils and all the other good things that help retain that head retention and that creamy fluffiness on the palate. So this thing here is hopefully going to be extremely silky but extremely smashable at the same time. Yeah, I think that's mixed enough. What do you reckon? Yeah. Oh, damn it. It spat at me. That is a whole lot easier with one of these things here. This is basically a paint mixer that you can use for mashing in. If you want to get yourself one of these, I'll drop a link down below on where we bought ours from Kegland. If you so wish to, please use our referral link because it gives us a small kickback so we can keep making videos like this on the channel. Now, enough of the plugs. We can talk about the actual mash temperature itself. This is coming in at 50 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes for a protein rest. This is going to help break down all those long chain proteins and make our mash a little bit more efficient and also help with things like head retention in the final product. That's going to be followed by a 30-minute rest at 64 degrees Celsius for that beta rest, followed by a 70 degrees Celsius rest for 30 minutes, and finally finishing with a mash out at 77 degrees Celsius. Again, thanks to Odin, the man holding the camera, there's going to be those freedom units on the screen throughout this entire video. Now, we'll come back to you in a little over an hour when it's time to start sparging. We have reached the end of our mash, and we are now setting up our sparge, removing the grain bed, and it's draining slowly.
No, it's not.
It's not the worst sparge ever. Not the greatest sparge ever either. do I want to meddle with this? We can probably get away with leaving it. It should be fine. It should be fine. So I'm going to flip my lid and start pouring the sparge water gently over the grain bed. I have used this analogy to death, but it works so well, I'm going to stick with it, because if it ain't broke. Think about sparging as running clean water through a soapy sponge. Sponge is soapy, you wring it out, put it in a bucket of clean water, wring it out again, more soap suds come out. Same principle with sparging if you're new to brewing. You're basically just trying to increase your efficiency and get more sugar out of your wort so that you end up with more final product. That's essentially all we're really doing here. We've already added the salts to our sparge water as well as our phosphoric acid to adjust the pH, and that's all there really is to it. After we run all the sparge water over the top and let it all drain out, we can move on to the boil step, which is where we actually get to do some fun stuff with this particular beer. See you then. Boiling. So it is now time to add our hops. In this case, we're going to be adding 20 grams / 0.7 ounces of Tetnang hops. That's going to give us 10 IBUs. Into the boil it goes. And that's because for this particular beer, we want to be using noble hop varieties to really stick to those traditional European roots. Tetnang is going to give us a little bit of a herbal quality, a little bit of an earthy quality, and a touch of floral in there, which is all going to work quite nicely with what is really meant to be more of an ester and malt-forward beer. The hops are not the star of the show, but they're there to make sure that it still feels and tastes like a beer. Now, we're going to come back in 55 minutes from now to add our final hop addition as well as our spices. Now we take a quick break from the video to show you our Belgian Saison. If you want to know how to make this beer right here, check the link up here. And if you want to look very cool while you drink it, get some Wombat merch today about some beer blanta and bloody good times. Or become a Patreon in our link down below. Now, back to the video. Now, 5 minutes left in the boil, and we're going to add another 28 grams / 1 ounce of Tetnang, which is going to give us 3 IBUs in a total of 13 IBUs. Into the boiler that goes. But here is the real pièce de résistance, which feels wrong to say for a Belgian beer, I suppose, but this is going to be 11 grams of coriander. Sorry guys, I need to read it. 11 grams / 0.39 ounces of coriander, 14 grams / half an ounce of bitter orange peel, and 20 grams / 0.7 of an ounce of sweet orange peel. So the whole idea between the spices and the orange peel and everything like that is it's going to give us a far more complex final product. That combo of sweet orange peel and bitter orange peel helps to give a more rounded and fuller orange flavor rather than it being so one-dimensional. And the coriander in there is going to dry out the palate a little bit and give more complexity to that spice background of the beer, because a Witbier, of course, needs its coriander to be a true Witbier. 5 more minutes of this with it boiling, and then we are going to come back to start cooling this down for yeast pitching. Just giving it a quick stir. That is looking like a very green, angry monster in there. Those Tetnang hops must be very fresh because they were green. See you in 5 minutes. We are now cooling. Beautiful. So I'm going to go and pull a final gravity, or I guess original gravity reading, I should say. Let's grab that from the cooling path. And we are going to cool this down to yeast pitching temperature, which in this case, I'm happy to hit around 25 degrees Celsius. I think is a pretty decent sweet spot for a Belgian style beer. We're going to be fermenting this, by the way, at 20 degrees Celsius, but I'll talk about yeast in just a moment. The gravity is sitting at 1.048, which is, I believe, above target. I think we're aiming for 0.45. So this will probably end up being around a 5 and a bit % Witbier. Not the worst thing in the world. I was just aiming for a lower ABV to be a little bit more smashable, but a few extra percentage points never hurt anybody. So once this is cooled down to yeast pitching, we can start the transfer process. Just occurred to me as well that it's worth pointing out we are using a plate chiller for today, But we have also run an experiment in the past where we compared a plate chiller to an immersion chiller to a counterflow chiller. If you want to see what that experiment looks like and what the results look like, check that video out up there. And let the transfer begin. That is transfer done. So before we go throwing in our yeast, we need to eat our pill. This here is a wrapped pill, which is basically a device that gives us real-time data and reading of our fermentation as it's in progress directly to our phones. If you want to see a full review on what that is and how it works, there's a link to that video up there. And of course, you can buy one through our affiliate program with Kegland. Spoiler alert, they're awesome. These are actually one of the things I would highly recommend getting because it's just so fun being able to see the real-time fermentation data on your phone. It's a bit of a nerdy thing that you don't need, but really, really fun to use. Now, we can talk about yeast. Because we're making a Belgian-style wit beer, we're going to be using a Belgian-style yeast. This here is Belgian Wit from Lallemand, and it's a more subdued yeast when it comes to producing esters and phenols in comparison to something like a German Hefeweizen, which is going to be jumping out of the, what's the phrase? Jumping at the bit is what I was trying to say when it comes to like banana and clove esters and phenols. This will produce banana and like spicy aromatics, but in a more neutral, more subdued way than a traditional Hefeweizen would, for example. Let's go ahead and throw in our yeasty boys. We're going to be pitching 2 packets today. Again, we're going to be fermenting at about 20 degrees Celsius. In there you go. For the majority of fermentation, which I believe will probably take about a week, this one will kind of munch through pretty fast. I will do a diacetyl rest at the end of that for 2 days and bump up the temperature by a couple of degrees. But, you know, if you don't have the ability to control temperature at home, don't stress about this too much. Diacetyl is not as much of an issue with a beer like this as it would be with a lager, for example. But from here, we will come back to you when we have a finished beer in glass. So, we will see you very soon. And here she is. Now this is finished up at a very, very reasonable 4.5%, which is right in the ballpark of where we wanted this beer to be. I didn't want this to be super boozy. I wanted this to be mid-strength and really sessionable, really easy to drink, and just the kind of beer that you can have many, many of and not feel like an absolute butt in the morning when you wake up. But let's go in for the taste, shall we? That's so good. Okay, so Belgian wit beers have still got that little bit of aromatics and those little bit of esters and everything going on that are similar to like a German wheat beer, but it's much more subdued. So where a German wheat beer is like smashing you in the face with clove and banana, which I love, a Belgian wit beer is a far more subdued and drawn back version of that. There's definitely still spiciness here. There's a general kind of citrusy fruitiness, which I'm attributing towards the orange peels. There is that like dryness in the mouth, which I think is something that coriander contributes quite a bit alongside Belgian style yeasts, which do finish quite dry. This one, by the way, finished at 1.011, which is actually not as low of a final gravity as what I was expecting. I was expecting this to be 1.008. So yeah, interesting. It doesn't feel like the gravity is that high though. It feels very, very dry in the mouth, very clean finishing. Dry finishing, I should say. That higher level of carbonation is just awesome with this style of beer. I can feel like the effervescence in this one, like a really refreshing, thirst-quenching style beer when it's really, really hot in the middle of summer. And just the color, it's like so pale straw-like. I don't know how well this is gonna come off to camera because it never really seems to come off the way that I can see it, but there's my best way to kind of give you an indicator of just how pale and beautifully blonde this thing actually is. It looks a lot like a hazy blonde ale, which is, I guess, kind of what this beer is meant to be in Belgium. So I would say this is an absolute success. I'm really enjoying drinking this one just myself. It's such an easy beer to drink, but still packs flavor. It still has that character coming from the yeast in loads, and it still has that spicy element and that orange peel element and everything going on, coming together in just a really interesting, refreshing style of beer. I guess it's basically the Belgian version of a pale ale, and I suppose that's why it's so easy to drink. So cheers guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and stick around with us next week where we are going to be showing you how, I don't remember what we're going to be showing you next week, but I guess what I can say right now is thank you to our Patreons. These are the guys that support us day in and day out outside of the stuff we do on YouTube. Obviously, that monetary support is immensely valuable to help us keep producing these videos, but also their general support, commenting in the YouTube section and chucking questions over to us, thoughts, ideas, and what have you over on Patreon is super awesome as well. So thank you guys. Also, all the extended tasting videos are now on Patreon. So if you like those videos we used to do on YouTube, go check it out down on Patreon. Anyway, cheers, and I'll catch you next week.